Hello everyone, welcome to Code with Femi. I hope you guys are doing well. One thing my school teacher never taught me was how to make money. I hope I would be able to show you guys how to build and sell your own APIs. So let's make money. Browser, so we can actually just get some theoretical things out of the way. So API actually stands for Application Programming Interface, and this allows you to be able to interact. So it enables computers to interact with one another, being able to transfer data from one another. And the data they actually transfer is actually called JSON. And JSON is actually, what does JSON stand for? So JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. This is actually a lightweight format for storing and transporting data. And also you can see here, it's often used when data is sent from a server to a web page. And and also in cases where you have to develop a mobile app, you need an API to be able to consume your your endpoints that you've developed on your API, and for it to be able to give information or data to the users that are interacting with your API through the mobile app. So one thing you should see here, you can see it's actually easy to understand. You can see you have this is actually an example of what the JSON looks like, where it contains a list of employees, their first name and their last name. And also what I've also done is I've actually just created a simple flow here for us to just capture what we're about to do here on a high level. So basically, when we develop our API, the user would be able to interact with our API via the hub. So there's actually going to be a hub on here, but just for us to understand the basic simple, it's going to interact with the API. The API is going to do some lookup or update the data in the DB or delete data or whatever you want to do based on that request, and it will send back a response. And you can see here, sometimes it's going to send back sometimes you're gonna have to the user would have to send like a JSON payload as part of their request. And there are some cases where they wouldn't, based on what kind of HTTP method and how you've actually set up your endpoints. I will actually go deeper into endpoints when we start developing the actual application. So as you can see right here, it gets a response back. But there's just one thing I want to clarify in terms of HTTP. Okay, so let's do this. HTTP is actually what we're using as the protocol for sending the actual request. Okay, but in terms of HTTP, there's something I really want you guys to understand. HTTP has different sections. It has a header, it has a body section, and it has a URL. Okay, this is actually the key things that HTTP requests and also your response actually contains. There are cases where it might not contain a body. Sometimes if it's actually a get, if you're doing a get method on the if the HTTP request you're doing is a get, you're fetching data from this API, then it might not contain a body. It will only contain maybe header and the URL, maybe sometimes parameters that you want to pass through, like maybe for paging and sorting and all of that. But I just want you to bear this in mind, and I can actually show you this now. So let's actually do let's just say F12 on our keyboard if you're using a Windows a Windows system, and then I'm just going to F5 to just refresh this. And what I just want to show you guys right here is just to be able to see what I'm talking about. So right here, if I open this and go here, you can see here that we have header, right? This is actually something that people don't really know, and you get what I mean. So basically you can see that there's a header because I sent a request to that URL that I need you to give me this actual view, and you can see right there that I had to pass in that URL as my request, and the method there is a get method. And you can see right there that there are other things that are also one of the things that might when you're making a request that might be attached to the actual header. Okay, And you can see also right here, this is the response header. So this is actually general, by the way. Sorry, let me see if I can get you there. Yeah, this is the request header, and right here you can see in the header it actually contains key value pairs. So you have keys, so these are your keys and these are your values. Keys, values, keys, values, keys, values, like that. And that is how you actually like create your HTTP request to be able to do what you want it to do. Okay, because there are cases where you might have actually configured your API to say that when a request comes in, check the header for a particular key and for a particular value. If it's not there, then reject that actual request. So it's just for you to get a sense of what all of this is all about. So this is actually the request header right there, key value pairs, and then you have your response header. And like I said, there are cases where you would have to pass in a body, and that I'm going to show you an example how that actually how we do that. But as you can see right here, this is just an high level stuff. Okay, but now let's actually now go into the main thing, which is actually creating our API. We'll create a new project. We're gonna click on ASP.NET Core Web API. Let's double click that. For this one, I would like to use a very good name for this. So as part of what I want to develop for this actual project that we want to sell is a actual COVID statistics, because you know that COVID is actually something that is affecting every one of us. Like, everyone is affected, businesses are affected, people are dying, people are sick, and it's really sad. But this is just me just trying to come up with a simple way. So there might be ideas, you might have different ideas. This is just me showing you one way of being able to create something that you can sell, but you can actually come up with different ways of different ideas. There's so many ideas you can come up with, but this is just one example where I'm actually creating a COVID application just for statistics. So I'm going to call this COVID analysis. Okay, I'm going to put API as my name of the actual API. So I'm going to remove that from my solution name, because this is actually the project and this is the solution. Because under my solution, I'm going to have multiple projects there. So we're just going to keep it as simple as this. We'll press next, and in there you will see I'm going to make sure it's 6.0, .NET Core 6.0. I'm not going to enable Docker now, and Docker is something else that we're going to do at a later stage. And also I'm going to make sure that this is checked, because I don't want to use the minimal APIs, because I just want to focus on creating an API that you can relate with, especially for those that are already creating APIs in the older versions, because a minimal API is something new, it's a new tech. So I don't really want to go deep into that for now. So we have that use controller, we have enable API support, and then I'm going to create this actual application. It's gonna take a little bit of minutes thereabout. Yeah, it's quick. I've got it, and by the way, I've got a much faster laptop now. Yeah, I'm really excited. Okay, so it's asking me to log in. I don't want to. It says license keys applied. Let's see if I can get away with this. Okay, I think it's actually happy, right? Everything looks beautiful, right? So in here you can see right there we have the actual boilerplate, the simple stuff that very simple. We've got a forecast controller right there. If you check the program, you can see now that the actual ASP.NET Core 6.0 is now different. You don't have the main method anymore. I've touched this already in my previous videos, but this is just simple, straight to the point. There is no they keep it as simple as possible, abstract a lot of noise out of it. But one thing I just want you to pay attention is this actual add Swagger gen. This actually adds the API to document your APIs. So when I was talking about endpoints, this is actually what I mean by endpoint. This is actually an endpoint, and I'm going to show you now. So let's actually start up this actual application and see what actually gives us before we go deeper into it. It's starting up, should be up in a moment. Okay, as you can see right there, you can see that we already have this is actually an endpoint, and this actually relates to the actual the actual the actual endpoint that I was referring to right here. You can see we gave it that name, which is get weather forecast, and then right in the actual browser we see right there that this is actually saying the same thing, right? And we can test this right from here. And for those of us who don't know what this is actually a way to document your API. This also helps you to be able to help other systems to be able to know how to interact with your actual API, because you can give them this actual document and they'll be able to interact with it. And so you can try it out yourself. And the good thing about this is I can execute this, and this would actually go into the actual, so this response you see in here is actually coming from my API. This is actually coming from my API. So let's go back to my API. Okay, let's go back to my API. I'll put a breakpoint here. Let's do it again. Okay, and then let's execute it again. You can see there, right there, there's a breakpoint there. I continue, and then it gives me that data. So do you guys get it? You can see it's JSON format, like I explained to you guys earlier on. It's actually JSON format, and it gives you all the response headers as well. You can see right there. So this is actually just simple basic stuff. So but let's now get to the business of the day. Okay, let's go back to our actual API. Let's stop this, and then the first thing we would like to do is put some structure in here, right? So what I want to do is we're going to create a new project. We're going to call this code analysis. So this is going to be a library, a class library. Okay, simple class library. Then we say next, and then we call this COVID analysis dot core, right? That will be the actual place where we put our core, our core components. Okay, so we have that, and then we have the next one, which will be our, let's add a new project, and then we'll call this same story, class library, COVID analysis, and then dot infrastructure. Okay, create that. So we can see we have that. So we have API core infrastructure, right? Remember we did it last time where we had our migration, we had a folder in here and we called it data, right, from the previous crash course series. From there, and then we added another folder and we called it EF, and then inside of our EF we actually created a folder called it migrations. Okay, right there. So we have a structure right there. And then another thing I would like to add here is the repositories. Let's add that there and say repositories. This is where we keep our repositories. And also we're going to come on here and remember what I mentioned. So we're going to be doing CQRS, which is actually you splitting out your commands from your queries. And what this actually helps with is it actually helps you to ensure that you're not complicating things. Okay, it makes it easy to segregate your commands from your queries, and also in terms of bottlenecks, ensuring that your command is only just affecting the database and your queries is actually just reading out of your database. It's just a way to ensure that there is no confusions, there are no locks, and it helps you to easily scale up even your application when you need to. And also in terms of being able to just ensure that there's a separation of concern. And this also helps in terms of single responsibility principle. So we create commands here, we create queries there, right? And then we already have an API section here where we can put all of our APIs, right? So this is actually just the basic stuff that we have here. And one thing as well that we just have to do is we have to connect our database, right? We need to make sure that we have a connection string and all of that going on here. Okay, so we'll do that in a jiffy, but I just want to show you guys what I have in the DB currently. So I have a DB already that I've set up, which is called COVID DB. This DB is blank, there is nothing in there. The first thing I would like to do in terms of the DB is actually populate it with some data. And the reason why I want to do that is because to generate the data on the fly, it's gonna take some time, but I just want to go to COVID. I'm just gonna say COVID stats. Let's say stats. Okay, Let's see what we can find here that is actually interesting. I think I love this one, this Worldometers info, because right there it gives you like this nice table you can easily grab. So I just want to see if we can, let's see if we can get that table. I'm just waiting for the table to show up. It takes a while before the table shows up, but that table, yeah, this table, this is what I was referring to, this table. What I can do now is I can copy the entire table, because this is what I want to report to my users whenever they make a call to the API. So let's go to the very bottom and then you just hold shift there, and that copies all the entire table for you. Do you know what the next thing I'll do now? I'll create an Excel sheet from this. Okay, so I'm just gonna create a simple Excel sheet, paste everything in there, and see right there I've got the data, right? So it's making sense. So the next thing you want to do is you just want to format this a little bit, because some of the things that we have here is not really needed. Let's delete that. We'll delete that row. Let's also delete the one at the bottom. This one at the bottom that we need to, okay, there's nothing at the bottom. I think everything looks fine. So the next thing we want to do is, you can see that this is actually 2 rows. It's going to take a little bit of a time, but I'll be quick. Let's remove that comma, and then let's copy that case and paste it up there. Okay, let's say, okay, let's just type it in then, cases. Then click on that one, say cases as well. Okay, auto debts and new debts. Okay, then we have recovered, and we have recovered, and we have cases, and we have serious critical, then we have total cases per 1 million. I want to believe so. Population, 1M population. Okay, just gonna close that gap there, because that's how we're gonna pass it into the table in the DB. Okay, then we have deaths per 1M population. Okay, then we have total tests that was done across the world, and then we have test per 1M population. Then we have the population, which I'm just gonna copy. We can just delete this, and we can just let's delete that row. Then we can just rename that as ID. That's our ID table. And then we have population there. Okay, this is looking good. So what we want to do now is we want to save as, let's save this as this browser PC. Just gonna save it there as CSV. So pay attention to this. So it's CSV UTF-8 command delimited CSV. So I'm just gonna call this COVID stats. Okay, so we have COVID stats now, right? Let's close this. We have the data we need. The next thing we want to do is we want to go into our DB, and we want to right click on there, go to tasks, and then say import flat files. We go next, we browse into where the file is, which is our documents, and then we put it right there. You can see, but in this one I just want to call it something proper. Statistic. Okay, and then we say next. So what this is gonna do ideally is it's gonna just create a table for us with all of this data, because we need it actually. So one thing we just want to do here is put that as a primary key, and also just say integer. We want to make this integer, not envarchar, and we just gonna leave it that way. So I think this looks fine. We can just, this is just for an example. We're not going to spend too much time analyzing the data and all of that, but as you can see that the data is in there in the DB. If we refresh our tables, we should see a new table in there now. You can see the stats. We select that, and we should actually see some information showing up now. You can see right there, this is beautiful. Okay, so now that we have our data in the DB, the next thing we need to do is to actually generate the code for for this structure in our actual API. So let's go back to our API. The next thing we want to do is we just want to create a class in here. So we're gonna call this our COVID DB context. That's our actual DB context, right? We have a DB context there. We're gonna make it public because we're gonna reference it in the interface, in the actual application, in the API. So right here, we're just gonna have to inherit from DB context, okay? But we don't have that yet, so we need to like make sure that we like get all the packages needed. So we go to manage NuGet packages, and then we say entity framework. Yeah, so in there we should be able to install the ones that we need. So SQL Server is one of the ones that we definitely need. Just gonna install that one for our case, which is Microsoft Entity Framework Core SQL Server, and as well as so let's see what we have here in our actual project. So we have that SQL Server. Let's see if we can get DB context from this DB context. Okay, let's resolve that. Okay, you can see right there that we have that. You can clean that up. And the next thing we want to do is set up our constructor. We can just say DB context option, because that is what we're gonna pass in. That's what is gonna contain our actual connection string. So we have this already, which is perfect. The next thing you want to do is you might want to like set up like your actual DB sets in here. But before we do that, let's just go onto this actual guy, which is your app settings, and let's create connection string, because we need that. Inside of connection string, I'm just going to call this default connection. Okay, and for my server, my own personal server that I'm using currently is going to be a local one, and then the database equals to COVID. That's the name of the database. And also you can actually say initial catalog if you want to, whatever floats your boat. Catalog, just to be safe, let's use that one. And then we say user ID, which is going to be test, because that's what I set up for this actual demo. Then we have password, which is going to be test as well. Okay, so we have this connection string on there already. So the next thing we have to do is we also have to like ensure that the entity framework is actually registered on our API. So we do similar thing, entity framework. Then we need the abstraction one. I want to believe that that is one key one that we need. And then let's see if we need other ones. Abstraction is there. Then let's install the SQL Server one as well. So we're not going to be doing identity in this actual demo. This is just we doing the just creating a simple API that does a CRUD operation using CQRS pattern, and actually just take it from there. So we have that installed now. The next thing is to actually go into our program to connect our actual to register our actual DB context right here. So we can just say add DB context. You can see right there. Then remember we have our DB context already that we actually specified right here, which is COVID DB context. We copy that into our program file just to register it. And right there, we can actually just say options. This options dot let's see, is it we're gonna do it this way, or quite new to .NET 6.0, but let's see actually if we can pass in the configuration directly. Let's say builder dot configuration. Yeah, let's do that. Let's see if we can do that way. Configuration dot get connection string. Okay, I think this should work. We just have to resolve this actual context, because now we're pointing to infrastructure, so we've referenced infrastructure in here. Still just, I don't know, might need to do this as an operation. Okay, I think that is it. So remember the actual connection string name we put in there, so we can actually just pass that straight into our program. So we've hooked up the actual DB context now to the API. The API has a DB context to it now registered, which is amazing. And then another thing I will also want to register is immediate R. So for us to be able to achieve CQRS pattern, some people like to do it crude, like doing everything themselves, like coming up with the handlers, coming up with the actual events, setting up, you know, all these different things manually. But there is actually a library you can use. It's called immediate R, which actually allows you to be able to do this like on the fly. So I would add that to this actual core project. Let's just manage it and say immediate R. Immediate R. Okay, we've got immediate. I think I saw it just now. Oh, yeah, this one. So you can see the immediate R. And then we just have to install this in here, right, inside of our core. So we install that inside of our core because that's where we're going to be provisioning all the different commands and queries. Okay, so we install that. That gets in, so that's been added to our core package. And then for this actual API, we just have to add it there as well as dependency injection as well. So immediate R, that one. This one, you need this one as well, which is dependency injection. Let's just install that first. Okay, let's actually, and you can see right there, it's also gonna pull through the other library, so it's automatically gonna just like add it as part of the package for you, so you don't have to necessarily add it separately. So we have that now. So basically I can actually just create a simple command here. So for us to create a command, I would say let's create a query first, right? Let's create a simple query. So in here, I'm just going to create a query to actually get all the different stats. Okay, so let's call this get COVID statistic queries query. Let's say query like that. Okay, so this is going to be our query. It's just going to be a public one. Okay, and then we can actually just put in here like a field or a property to say that just take a certain amount. If we don't want to like take everything, we just want to select a specific amount, so we can actually just say take that would be the parameter we pass in from our endpoints into this actual stuff. And so the other other thing is you just have to make sure that this inherits from iRequest for you to be able to use immediate R. But before we actually go any further, right, let's just keep it this way first. We'll get back to this. What I want to do is I want to scaffold the actual stuff we had in DB, just the structure in here, so we can have something going on here. So the next thing you want to do is you just want to go to tools and then just say package manager console. I have some scripts I've actually prepped just to save us time. So the first one you need to run is this .NET 2 install -- global. This is just to ensure that you have the actual tool. So you can see right there, it's telling me that I've already installed it, so I don't have to run this again. So let's clean that out. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you now scaffold the actual thing. So when I paste it in there, you can see right there, it told me that there is actually still a problem. So that means that I need to install this actual package in my infrastructure. And also just make sure that when you're running this within the package manager console, just make sure that you point into this project, because that is where I've moved my own DB context. Okay, so let's just bear that in mind. So what we just want to do is we want to right click on there and actually just say manage package manager, paste that in, and then we can actually just make sure we install that design. Okay, go and install it for us. We can go back to our infrastructure again and try it again. See if this actually is happy. So it's actually saying that doesn't reference okay, so it could be that we might just need to, let's see, I think there's another one that we need to install, which is 2. Let me see, yeah, this one. So let's install that one as well. Let's just install that one as well. And then we might need to just close package manager. Let's see if that would help it. Close this. Let's just try it again. Let's see. Okay, it's built and succeeded. So it's saying that your startup project code analysis API doesn't reference. Okay, that means that even our actual API also needs it. So let's go there and do the same there. So these are the ways you can also like make sure that you implementing this correctly. Okay, install it there on the API, make sure it's right there. Okay, finished. Let's try it again. Build start. So what it's doing currently now is actually getting the database, right? It's grabbing the database and it's actually just ensuring that the table, all the table in there are actually like generates the actual code that we need. So if you see right there, you can see that we've got some cool stuff happening now. We've got our code statistics as the DB said there. We've got some, some of the stuff that we have right there, which is beautiful. Like, and another thing is in terms of the actual in COVID statistics model, I don't really want it here, right? And also it seems like it actually generate another one for us, which I really don't want. So what you can do is you can actually just ensure that we delete this one. So let's delete this one, and then we can actually move that right there, okay, into EF. So it's right into EF. Make sure that it's also like pointing to that namespace. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to move our actual model in here, so we can actually just say models. Okay, so we'll move that model right there. So this will no longer be infrastructure, this will be core. Okay, so we have it right there. Let's clean up the namespace we're not using, and then what we can now do is we can actually just say using. And also one of the things you can also do is you can actually ensure that you use the global using if you want to, but I'm just trying to save time here. I really don't want us to spend too much time on doing unnecessary thing. I'm gonna take that out because we're gonna inject it. The actual connection string will be injected as part of this DB context options. Okay, so that's fine. I'm gonna remove that as well. Okay, so we have this is actually API. The next thing is we just have to make sure that our program is still referencing the right file. So you can see right there that it's not API. Let's just resolve that quickly. I think our namespace is even wrong right there. So right there, yeah, so it should be data EF, because you can have another data ORM which is like your maybe DAPA something. So we have that. We've actually like what we've achieved now is actually connecting our our DB to the API through the ORM, which is entity framework. We've also like scaffold the actual table that we have in the DB, which is COVID statistic, which is this actual table that we have here in code, right? So we have that right there. And also just clean that out just to make sure that everything is clean. So we have that. So the next thing is to actually just like register immediate R. So we're just gonna say add immediate R. This is not gonna show up, and the reason being it's because it doesn't know where to get it. So remember, we installed it on the core. That is where we have it. So if you go to packages, you see right there that we have it on the core. So what you want to do is just add a reference to core from your API project, and then you should have immediate R. And then what you can do is you can actually just say type of to register the actual assembly of where all the different commands and queries are gonna live. Okay, so we can use any of this class, any class that is in this space is fine. Okay, but we can even use this, it doesn't really matter, whatever class you want to use. You just have to make sure that whatever class you're using actually sits in the same space as your commands and your queries. Okay, so I'm just going to say type of that COVID statistics model, and then what I want to do is I'm just going to say get info, just say assembly actually. So this will actually just use the actual assembly. So based on this core, because this core has an assembly, so based on this assembly, it's just going to be able to know where to resolve how to resolve the different queries and handlers that you would have. Okay, so we've actually registered Mediate R is registered, and we've got, so let's actually go back to our actual query that we were trying to do. Or before we even do that, we need to set this up, right? So the next thing we want to do is we want to set up like a repository. So I'm just going to create a simple repository here. This repository is just to interact with the actual, so I'm just going to call this COVID statistic repository. Okay, that's the actual repository, and this is also going to be public. Okay, and this is going to inherit from I. So we're going to create a I repository in the core just to interface with our data access layer, which is our infrastructure. So here I'm just going to say I COVID statistic repository. Okay, so I COVID status repository. This is an interface. Remember all the abstraction we actually learned from previous videos. So if you still not sure why I'm doing this, just go back to all the different videos. But this is just to decouple the core from the infrastructure, so we just rely on interfaces. This is actually a way to abstract things, just to make sure that your modules, your components are loosely coupled. Okay, just bear that in mind. Man, just save this one. Let's move away from this guy. So we have that, right? So the next thing we want to do is we want to come back here, make sure that we have my COVID repository, COVID statistics, sorry, statistic. Okay, then we have to just resolve that, add reference to core, and that will resolve the actual interface for you. So you have our interface now, right? And then now we have the constructor, which is going to take in the DB context. So we're gonna just say COVID DB context, which is gonna be the context. And we're just gonna copy that actual context. Let's make that private, read only. Okay, read only, and then let's just paste that in there, and then make that underscore, because remember that's a private field. Okay, then we pass that in, and then we say equals to that. Okay, so we injecting it and we setting it to that field. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to do like the first one, which is actually just to get a list of COVID statistics. Statistic. So that's the name of the model, right? List of COVID statistic. I was gonna say from core, you say get COVID statistics. Then remember the integer, which is your take. So we're just gonna take. Okay, this is just an example. You can actually come up with how you want to do this, but I'm just gonna say return COVID statistic take. So whatever you pass in here, and then we're just gonna say to list. Okay, so this will actually just ensure that we, why is it complaining? So what list is this? Yeah, generic list. No. So what is this using? So we just have to go in there and resolve this. I think this is still using a different okay, that's why. So let's just remove this. Let's delete this completely. Okay, so this should only be using the core models, right? Remember, so you shouldn't actually use this. Okay, so we have that now, which is looking great. Let's close this. Let's go back. You can see it's actually happy now, right? So we can return that take. So this is the first one we're doing, and remember we have this actual stuff we have here. So since we have an interface, we're just going to expose this. Okay, so let's expose this inside of our I COVID statistic repository. We're just gonna say using that model, right? You can see that's the first thing. So we're doing a read now. We're reading from the DB directly. So this is actually what I was trying to explain to get back to, which is now we're gonna return back a list of COVID statistics statistic. Okay, so that's the return type. Okay, so we have so we are up forward. Okay, so we have that. So the next thing we want to do is we want to say class, and then we're actually going to say, so this is going to be another class that we're creating, which is going to be COVID, which is going to be similar to that, get, and then this is going to be our handler. So when you actually pass this object to mediator, it would actually like trigger this handler to process it. So you're gonna inherit from iRequest handler. Okay, request handler is going to take what is the request, what are you passing in. So it's going to take this actual request, this is your request, which is going to be that, and then it's going to respond back with this actual list of COVID statistics. So like that. And then what you can do is you can just implement the handler, because it's going to tell you to implement the interface. So you can see right there. So we have an handler, we have the actual query. Okay, it's looking great. So as part of what we want to do, we're just going to say CTOR there, and then remember we have a COVID an I repository, yeah, I COVID statistic repository we've created. We're just going to inject that at this point. Just going to say private read only, put that there, the I COVID repository statistic repository, and then we can just say underscore, then we copy that in there, remove that guy, same story, rinse and repeat, pass it back to the field. Okay, we're moving, we're going fast now. So right there we have that, and then the next thing is we're just going to call that get statistics by passing in request dot take. Okay, just return that. So let's see what is going on. It's saying okay, this is a task, so that's another thing. So that means that we might actually just make this one asynchronous. Okay, so let's just await this. Wait, I'm just wondering now. Oh, you know what, let's just keep it synchronous for now. We can deal with asynchronous tasks later. This is just a simple API that we just created. Okay, so we have okay, so it has to be a task. Okay, so it's fine. So that means that we just have to, so there are two ways you can actually do this. If you don't want to like make your actual, if you don't want to go through the stress of going through and making all of this asynchronous, you can actually just do this and say task.run. Okay, and then you can just do that. So that will make this actual thing run asynchronously. Okay, so that's actually it for this simple query. So the next thing we want to do is we just want to create our own API endpoints. I'm just going to duplicate this. Let's copy that guy, let's paste that there, let's rename that to COVID statistic. Okay, that's your controller there. It also have to be renamed from that. Let's just find all of that and actually rename it with COVID statistic. Okay, current document, just to rename all of that. So we've renamed everything in there, so you can see right there. So we can just actually just resolve that, get us that. So in terms of your actual controller, now we can take that out. We don't need that anymore. Another thing is we just have to like make sure that we have a constructor that takes in a parameter. So this is where we inject our immediate R to do what we need to do. Okay, immediate R, immediate yeah. Let's just see it. Okay. So we can just say mediator Okay, copy that, rinse and repeat, same story. Inject into your constructor, remove the underscore, pass the actual object to field. Okay, just copy that up. Okay, you can take that out, or you can actually just merge the two together. Pass in a log as well. Okay, so we have something very straight to the point. Let's just close that. So we're just gonna make this an asynchronous method right there. Okay, then what we just do is we just actually say, so this is how we set up your query. So just say var query, this is the new, remember the query you set up here. Just copy that, go back to there. Let's just say we want to take 10. We don't want to take everything. Okay, so that's our query. Let me just say result, just say await mediator dot send. So this will send the actual query, and under the hood it knows how to make sure that it gets, can actually just return let's return action result, actually action result. Okay, and then let's just say return okay. Okay, so return okay for this one. So guess what we can also do is we can actually just, so remember from the crash course, it also followed the same convention as for APIs in terms of you implementing middlewares, you implementing filters and all of those things. So you can also just come up with your own filter for login, the actions, the actual endpoints when they come in and all of that. But I'm not going to do that in this actual demo, just to save time. I want to keep my time as short as possible, just to get the concept out to you guys. So if I actually run this now, we should ideally we should be able to see some new endpoints showing up on our actual Swagger doc. Okay, so there is actually still a problem, so let's just see what the problem is. Okay, so this is how you also troubleshoot. The problem we have here is that I remember that inside of my handler, right? So it's actually complaining about this actual handler, and the reason why it's complaining about this handler is because of this actual guy. I have not registered this guy, this actual COVID statistic repository, for it to be used. So that's why it's actually like losing its mind. So always remember that this is where it will be complaining about a specific class, but just ensure that whatever you're injecting is already registered. So but also just make sure that this is actually fine. We can actually just register our class, and then just say add, let's see, add scoped. Okay, so this is COVID statistic repository, and then we have the actual concrete, which is COVID statistic repository. Cool, resolve that as well from the infrastructure. Okay, so we have that registered. Now let's try it again. Let's see what happens. So running that now, let's see if all things go well or if it's still gonna moan. Okay, it's fine now, it's happy, right? And as you can see right there, we have two stuff now. We have COVID statistic, we have weather forecast. The reason why I left this is because I just want you to see how you can start adding new endpoints. Okay, and as you can see right there, we have this actual one which we can try out. So if we say execute, so it's actually saying there that there is no database provider has been configured in for this DB context. So that means that there's still something wrong somewhere. But like that is just how you can actually start seeing and familiarizing yourself with some errors. You don't have to panic and lose your mind. just have to find out, what is going on. You can check online, go on Stack Overflow. This is how you debug all of this. But I think I know where the problem could be. I think I might, this is not set up properly. So you can see right there, I'm just passing in the actual connection string. I'm not really, using the option. Remember, I didn't, use the option there. You just have to make sure that you use SQL Server. So you say use SQL Server, like that, and then you have to just make sure that you pass in the actual connection string into SQL Server, because that is our provider. SQL Server is our provider. So in a case where you want to do you want to do MySQL, so you can just say option.use MySQL Server and then pass in the connection string. So I think this should be fine. Another thing I noticed was that in terms of our endpoint, remember that we need to pass in a take. So we just add code in it here, which is not great. We want the actual users to pass it in by themselves. So let's do that. So what you can do is pass in the parameter there, and then you can just say / curly brackets in there. You can just say take. So if we refresh this, I want to believe that now, no, one more thing that we haven't done is we have not changed that to take that that is coming from the users. But I think our auth reload should actually take care of that for us. I want to believe this should just work out of the fly, but I want to put a breakpoint there just to see what is going on. Okay, let's just go to our status and actually run it again. Okay, you say try it out yourself. Let's put in 10 there, then let's execute, and let's see there. See, 10 is going there, and what I want you to pay attention to is how this thing flows. So from there, it's going to prep up the query. So now at this point, when it hits the send, it's going to hit that handler. So the handler is going to be the one that will be hit at this point. So let's put a breakpoint here so you can see what I mean. I'm going to press continue, and I want to believe you can see. So the handler is actually handling that request for us, which is beautiful. So this is how you implement CQRS, and which is like, it's just beautiful. Like, it makes life easy. You can actually create component isolated. You can see take 10 there, and then I can actually just let's go deeper. Actually, let's see what is going on inside the hood. And see, okay, I think because it's asynchronous, we can do a breakpoint. But see right there, can you see right there, we send him back USA, we send him back some statistics, total cases, new cases, deaths, so we have like an API now that we can really use. Okay, and so for your own assignment, because I'm not going to implement all the different endpoints, is to you to actually like finish up what I've done, which is creating your post endpoints, create your delete endpoint, create your get endpoint. I'm going to push this code up so that you can have access to it, but this is where I'm going to stop in terms of this actual implementation. And the next thing I would like to do is I would just like to make sure that I set up a middleware. And the reason why I want to set up a middleware is because, remember, I want to sell this API. This API has to be sold. So for me to be able to ensure that this is actually going to work, so the next thing you want to do is let's set up our actual place where we're going to sell this. And where we're going to sell this is Rapid API. Yeah, so let's go to Rapid API. Just gonna go straight to Rapid API. Let's detach this from here, because I know if I shut down the actual system, the actual running app, it's gonna like close the browsers. So I'm just gonna log in here. I've already set it up already for myself, just to speed up the time, because I don't want us wasting too much time. But ideally, when you log in with either your email or password, and as well as you can use your Gmail and other social logins that they've got. But I'm just gonna show you guys what I've done here. So under the API, so before we even go any further, I just want to show you guys what other guys are already doing here in this space. Let's go to API Ops. Okay, API Ops is where people are selling their APIs. Like, there is tons of it. You can see right there, this is some guy, telesign SMS verify. So that means that you can actually go into there, and when we publicize our own as well, it will be similar, where you can actually like expose endpoints like this, and you can easily sell. You can sell the request. You can make people like they can do a request to your API and get information back from your API. Okay, so right there we have an endpoint, we have about, we have tutorials, we have you have the pricing. So all of this is what you set up by yourself. So you set up the pricing yourself to say, basic, I want to charge $1 per month, or I want to charge $2 per month with a limit of maybe these credits. So all of this you have to set up yourself, and you have to also test it to be sure that it is working as you're expecting. And also people would comment on your API to see, and you get ratings and latencies and all of that. And also about us, you can actually just come up with information they can read up on. And also in terms of your endpoints, you can actually have some endpoints they can actually play with. Okay, so you can also see that you can actually do you can do tests. You can actually test. You can see right there, you can send a verification using that. But for me to actually be able to do this, I'll have to subscribe. If I click on subscribe to test, then I'll be able to subscribe. Then I have to just put in my my phone number, and then put in a verification code. And but we'll set our own up. I'm just showing you like an example. So let's start with our own, right? So basically, remember that we have our own API now, which is running. But before we actually even go any further, the first thing I want to do, the key thing I want to do is to actually just clean up some APIs. And also one thing I just discovered is that I would like us to actually do one more query that we can add. So this is how I do it. I just copy and paste. And remember, and also one thing I just want to mention is that the same way I've implemented the query is also the same way you're going to implement the command. It's just that for your command, you just have to say COVID statistic update command, or COVID statistic delete command. Okay, if you want to change the state of the database. Okay, so for this one, I'm just going to call this one search. Okay, so this is going to be a search query that I would like to use. So I will just rename that as search. Okay, let's just rename that as search. And then we have, okay, I think we have to do everything like that. So we have search. So this will be called search. This is our search query. And in there, I'm just going to say string. And then we're just going to say keyword. So based on the keyword, I can search. I can get them to search for things on the actual, on the actual DB. Let's make that a capital letter as a property. And then the next thing we want to do is we just want to like change this a little bit to actually do still gonna be so go into the repository quickly, and then right there we're just gonna copy that guy, and then we're just gonna say string search. Okay, so this is your take, this is your string, and then we can just say dot where, okay, x dot. So what do we want to search for? We can search for country, say contains search. And also what you can do is you can actually just say string comparison, ignore case. We don't really care about case. If the actual the actual keyword matches any of the country, then just return that. So we have that already. Then we can just rename that as search. Okay, copy that list, and then we can just expose it on our core. So our core has it now, so I can search, I can take. Next thing I can do is I can add a new endpoint right there. Okay, and actually call this search. And then it takes two parameters, which is your take and your search. And then we'll go back to our search query. Right there we can actually just include int take. Okay, this would be search, this would be take, and then we can actually just say request dot search dot keyword. Okay, so we have a new one. Okay, let's just try it out. Okay, so it's just a way to make sure it's nullable checks and all of that, which is fine. We'll talk about that later. And then we can actually just say string empty. In case it's empty, if it's actually not supplied, then we can actually just make it empty like that. So we have the actual new endpoint we've added. Can you see how quick I just added this? I just added a query quick to just search, which is beautiful, right? I'm gonna take this out. I don't want this in my in my API. Just make it clean and straight to the point. So we have that. We have all the necessary bits. We remove that as well. I don't want that as well. Delete that. Okay, let's build this. Okay, so this should actually be fine now. And then if I go back to my actual Swagger doc, I can actually test it out and see what is going on. So let's just test it out. Let's be sure everything is working as expected. Yeah, it seems like it's ready. Let's just go on there. Let's see. So when you get errors like this on Swagger doc, just inspect it and then go to network. That's where you can actually see what the problem is. So and then just go to swagger.json. There you can see it will give you the actual on the response tab. You actually see what the actual error is. Okay, right there it seems like there's still some problem with the endpoints I actually created. So let's just close this. Let's stop this as well, and then let's just remove that name. So this will be our path. You have to set up a different path because these are two gets, so it's conflicting with each other on. So just always bear that in mind. And also this is not even right yet, so I didn't sort it out properly. So let's just sort that out. So we have keyword there, so keyword there, and then keyword capital letter K. Okay, and this should be fine now. I want to believe, because keyword. Oh, okay. See, this is still saying get. So always just pay attention to detail. Know what is happening. And know you make sure you're using the right query. Let's just change that to search as well. The method name. So the method name is search. Is get for that one. Then we can actually run it. So hopefully we should be able to see what is going on. So yeah, as you can see, we have more endpoints now, and it tells us how we can actually handle it. So we have a COVID statistic endpoint that has a get COVID statistic that takes a take parameter, and the other one takes a keyword and a take. So let's just say 10. Then I'm just gonna say let's just put N. So just give me all the countries that starts with N. Okay. Okay, so there's still a problem, yeah. So it's saying there that could not translate. So there are cases where it will not be able to translate what you have there to entity framework. So those are the things that you just have to bear in mind. I actually just added this without really thinking it through. But the way to really resolve this is to actually just say that to lower. We can actually just say to lower as well there. Okay, then let's run this as well. That means that we're comparing the same the same casing. Okay, so let's try it again. Let's try it out. Let's say take 10, and then let's say N. Okay, to give us all the actual countries that starts with N. Okay, and as you can see right there, we have not really start with N, that contains N rather. You can see there that India starts with M, contains N, France contains N, Germany, Iran, Spain. So like that, we have all the different countries that really start with N, contains N. Sorry, I keep on saying that starts with N. So that you can search how you want to search. You can actually search by saying South. Let's search by South. Let's see if there's South Africa there. You can see there South Africa. So this is quite cool. This is quite this is quite really nice, where you can easily just play around with this. So we have 2 endpoints now. So like I said, you guys are gonna have to do this yourself, like to finish all of these endpoints off, because I really don't want to spend too much time. The actual the structure is there. It's just a matter of adding a command here, and then using the mediator to just send the actual request. That's all that you need to do, and set up a repository if you have to. So the next thing we would like to do here is to actually make sure that we have our course actually set up here. Okay, because that is actually also very crucial. So in terms of our course, we can actually just say dash use course there. So in terms of using course, we're just actually going to keep it that way. And also you can also do something like this to say, I'm gonna explain course for you actually. So we can just actually just say allow, you can actually allow any method, allow any, so basically you can actually do this to say option dot allow any headers, okay, and then sorry, just terminate there, and then options dot allow any method, okay. So you can actually do that, and also you can also specify specific ones if you want to allow any origin. So this actually opens up your actual API to anyone calling it, but guess what, we need to make sure that we have a middleware in here, okay. Remember that we're dealing with we need to sell this, all right. So we want to make sure that we can control what comes in here. So this middleware is just going to be able to know what, where the request is coming from, and it must come from the actual place. Let's call this middlewares because we might have multiple middlewares, and this actual middleware, I'm just going to call it header middleware, or requests. Let's just call it request middleware. Okay, this is just going to check the request and actually just return it back if we can find what we need in there, okay. Or we can actually, even to be explicit, call it request validator middleware, okay. So the request validator middleware is what we're going to now use to ensure that we can do the necessary bits. Remember what I explained in my previous videos, which is you have an async task invoke, see right there. So this already gives us what we need. Let's remove that duplicate. So also to register your actual middleware, remember you have to just make sure that you put it right around this place. So I'm just gonna actually say let's just put it right there to say app, right, app dot use middleware, okay. So it's gonna use our middleware, which is that one that we have just created now, which is requests validator middleware, okay. So we've got that now, got that middleware now, right. What we can now do is we can just say try, then we can just say catch, okay, something like this. And then remember what we did the last time, which is actually having like a request delegate that we can actually use. So what we do is we actually have a private read-only request delegate, and call this next, okay. And then just a CTOR right there, we just actually just inject the actual delegate and actually just pass that in like that, okay. So the next thing you want to do is you want to check the actual context, right. So let's just do that and say var headers header, like, or let's just say rapid API request header. So we only accepting things from rapid request header, and then we're gonna get the actual key from the actual rapid API. So do that, I just passing the context to the next guy. But I'm still gonna finish up this, so let's just quickly go fetch what the key is and all of that, okay. So we're gonna await that, obviously, okay. So this is happy now, we have a middleware. If you put a breakpoint here, I want to believe when we run this, then it would actually just run now, okay. So we have this. So the next thing we want to do is let's go back to rapid API. Remember we have this rapid API where we trying to set up our COVID API. So we can just call this COVID statistic API, okay. Can't use the word API, okay, it's fine. Just say COVID statistic, statistic. Okay, and then in there we can just say this is an API to that provides COVID statistics. Okay, and then the next thing you just want to do is make sure you select the one that is applicable. I'm just going to select data for this one, and this is where we can now use the actual Swagger doc that we've actually generated from our API, and I'll show you how you can get that now. So let's run this. So when we run this now, we should actually have a have the Swagger doc, and from the Swagger doc we can easily just grab the definition. So I will actually show you guys how you can grab the definition. I don't know why this thing doesn't pop up by itself, but yeah, so you can see right there that link there, just click on it. Okay, it's trying to do a request, which is fine, but you can see right there that we have something. It's like the actual JSON, and also I want to believe that we can actually just go back to Rapid. Let's see if Rapid API would be able to accept this. I'm just going to save this the actual JSON. Let's see if this works. I'm just gonna call it Swagger or let's call it COVID definition, COVID API definition. And we're just gonna make this a JSON object. Just want to see if this is gonna work. Dot JSON. Okay, let's put that on my desktop actually, or let's put in download. It's fine. Okay, right there we have open API. Let's see if this allows us to do that. Let's just cancel that. Let's open that. And let's add API. Let's see what happens. So I want to believe that this should actually get all the necessary things on there, and you can see we're actually getting somewhere. And this is where you can actually just come up with your image. You can come up with the image there. If you want to come up with the URL, we can actually upload all of this later, the terms of use. And also one of the things you can also do is you can actually like check the set up the base URL as to where what the base URL would be. Okay, configure a base URL, so you can configure it, but we can actually do this later. For now, let's just keep it this way, because the focus is to just get the security sorted. So I'm just gonna see, so you can see right there, this is actually the actual header. So it tells you what is going to send into your header, right? You see right there. So I have that header right there. So this is what I'm checking in the request whenever someone tries to make a request from Rapid API into my so this is actually just to control traffic and all of that, to make sure that people are not abusing my API, and as well as ensuring that things are going smoothly. So I'm just gonna, for this demo, I'm just gonna show you guys what it looks like. It doesn't really matter. I'm also gonna just ensure that I'm just gonna add code it for this demo, because so the next thing is to actually just say that if Rapid API dot is not string values, sorry, if we want to say if it's actually empty, or that means that we couldn't get this guy out of the actual header. And also if the Rapid the actual value, the string, is not the actual key. So remember that key I copied from that actual documentation from Rapid API. So what you just want to do is you just want to throw exception. So draw a new exception. Just put it and say invalid request, or if you want to, you can actually even say unauthorized request. So remember, for this one you need to inject it. You can inject it, you can put it into your your app settings. So I just want to save time, but you can put it in your ad service settings and make it configurable, and then you can inject the I option into your, so in here you can see I options, and then you can actually ensure that that actually just goes through. Okay, you can do all of that. So if you check my previous video that I've done of that, how to inject all this goodies into this actual middleware, I've done all of that. Just go watch my MVC implementation. But the whole idea is that this is going to be dynamic. You passing this is because based on whatever environment you've set up for this actual stuff. But just to make things quick, we have unauthorized, and then what we can now do is we can actually just say that context dot result response, sorry, response dot write, and just write as write as JSON synchronous. Can just say ex dot message. Since we don't want to show them anything, can I wait this as well? So this will send back a JSON to them. Okay, so this is what it looks like now. Let's refresh this so you can see what it means now. So now remember that we've actually configured this with Rapid API. So when we try this using Swagger, our Swagger doc now, it shouldn't really work anymore because we've actually just put that error check now to check. So if I say 10 now, I want to believe that the middleware will kick this one out because it doesn't have that error. So you can check right there, that error is empty, you can see. So it will throw that exception, and then that will actually get returned back to us on the actual, you can see right there. So that is just what we can do, but this is actually not really a valid JSON, by the way. What you can do is we can actually just say create an anonymous object here to just say new error message equals to that error message. So this just makes it a valid JSON object like that. So what this does is it actually helps you to serialize that, so basically that's a valid JSON object. But this is actually the middleware. We have all this thing going on, right? So the next thing is to actually just get this thing up somewhere and get cracking. I'm gonna do that quickly now. So right there we have this. Let's just test this quickly again so we can be sure that this is actually working as we expecting. This is gonna return back, and also it's easy for us to debug this now if I tunnel through it. So you can see right there we have an error message which is unauthorized request. Can you see there? So now we've actually gathered our actual API. Rapid API is now ready to do its thing, which is we have that. The only thing left is to just put in the base URL. Then I'm gonna go to Azure. So on Azure, this is where we'll just actually create something quickly that we can easily use. Right there, I'm just gonna say sign in with Github. Let's see if this allows me to sign in with Github. Okay, I can sign in with Github. Okay, I have an OAuth I've actually set up for multi-factor authentication, just to make sure that I'm protecting myself from the bad guys. So let's just see what I have on my phone. I'm just going through my phone now, so it's right there. Just gonna blur that out just to keep myself safe. Okay, then we'll continue. So now I'm signing into on Azure using this. Okay, you see there are two factors I'm actually doing now, like blocked. There's no way you're getting into my account. Sorry, dude. Yeah, so I'm using two, making sure everything is locked down, I'm covered and I'm all safe and all of that. So the first thing you want to do is let's just create a simple resource group, because now I'm actually setting up a simple web API. So let's set up a web API quickly. But before we do it, let's actually set up a service, app service. So app service plan, that'll be the first key thing you have to do. Let's create one. I'm just going to create a simple small one that we can quickly use for this. So it's pay as you go, which is fine. I don't mind. Just let's create a new resource group actually, because I want to make sure that it's actually just a demo one. Demo resource dash group and create that one. We'll make sure it's Linux. Remember, it's actually free, so I'm just going to call this COVID analysis app, service app. If I have that, I'm just going to give it lowercase, and I want to like select South Africa because that's where I'm actually like hosting this from. Sorry, that's Brazil. South Africa not. Then you can see there you can change the size of the actual dedicated server, because dedicated server you have to be careful not to use something that is extremely big. So I'm just gonna go with something very basic. I'm going to go with this one because this allows you to do some stuff, but I'm gonna like close all of this once I'm done with this actual demo. Next tag, review it, and that would actually just set up the actual service plan. So the service plan is actually the server itself, like the server where you're going to host the actual API. So let's create this. So this is going to create it. You can see right there it's creating it in the actual resource group. The next thing we can do is we can actually go back home, go back to our resource groups, and actually just select that one and actually ensure that we have let's go back, resource groups, demo resource group. Okay, then we can add other resources that we need actually the database. Let me just set up the database quickly because that is actually very important. The database, Azure DB, just needs SQL database. That's all I need. I just need SQL database. We create SQL database because remember we have a database that we've actually configured locally. Right there we have. Here as you go, it's gonna go into the demo resource group. We give this database a name. Let's just call this COVID DB, COVID DB, and then the server name. We create a new server, right? We need to get a SQL server, and what we can now also do is we just have to make sure that it's actually in the same place as our app, so we create it in the same region. So you can see right there, I'm just going to call this COVID analysis server. Okay, COVID analysis server, and then we have so we can actually just say that we want to use both, or we can actually just say use SQL authentication. Just gonna give this a name and just say COVID analysis server. Then you have your password, which I'm just going to use something. Just gonna create one quickly. Just gonna hide that from you guys just to be safe as well. And I'm gonna clean it up with something nasty. Okay, let's copy that, paste that in. Let's paste that in. We have that, but I just want to be sure as well. So when you create your password, just be careful not to use like some hectic characters, because that could make your connection string not really work. So just be careful, just bear in mind that. So we have that, we have code analysis. I have that as well. So I've actually created that. I said okay. So the next thing is I just have to create a new. This is a new server I've created in Node, and also I don't want to. So just change that to like simple small, in a very small stuff that I can. I'm just gonna select DTUs because DTUs are quite basic stuff. I can actually just say 5. It's fine. So you can see they just cost me like 100 rands per month, which is fine. I can live with that, and then I can apply that. Let's just close this. We have the database set up. I'm gonna leave this all just basic. Don't need to touch that. No access. So yeah, you can actually just, so we can actually do the access later, okay? And also you can just read up on it, but it's fine. We'll do all the access stuff later, but let's just go on. Enable defender. We're not enable any defender, just keep it default. This one, yeah, default as well. Fine, just review this. It's gonna create it under the same resource group, which is perfect, and then we just say create. So whilst this is creating, I want to believe that our actual service plan is fine. It's actually up. So let's just wait for this. It's still validating. So let's wait for it to tell us that it's actually like creating the actual database. Okay, I think it is doing that now. So it's underway. So what we can do is go back home, go back to resource groups, go to that actual resource group we just created, and then you should actually start seeing things happening. You can see that we have a service plan. Then we can now set up we can create a new one for the actual web app. Okay, so web app, create a web app. In terms of our web app, we just have to make sure that we have a web app name. We call this COVID analysis. This is web app. Okay, COVID analysis web app. It's a code. We're not doing Docker container. We're actually gonna say .NET 6. It's a Linux operating system, and it's going to be hosted in South Africa, where I am. Not okay. Then we have that basic. You can see there it's the actual basic we selected from the previous actual service plan when we're creating the service plan. So just bear that in mind. Then next is deployment. So this is actually where we can actually just set up our code to be pushed up and be ready for us. So what we can do is we can actually go to GitHub. Let me go to GitHub. I'm just gonna create a new actual app and call this COVID analysis. Okay, I'm gonna make it public because I want you guys to have it. And then what we can do is we can actually just create the repo. Once we create the repo, it gives us like a 1-2 step of how to actually make sure everything is working as expected. So I'm just going to follow this step because this is a new repo. We're just going to what we can do is we can actually do that one, which is init. Okay, so let's go in there into our code. Sometimes this thing just takes its precious time to open. Okay, let's go into our actual place where our code is. So our code is actually right here inside of this place. And then what we can do is we can actually just CMD right in there. Actually just say git init. That will initialize git. If you check there, you can see there's the folder now git. And then we can go back to the actual no, not this one. This one, yeah, this one. And then we can actually just say git add. That's the next one. Put it on the side here. Okay. And I'm sorry, let me just use this. And let's just say git add dot, so it will add everything. And also if I check my Visual Studio now, I want to believe that there should be some sort of like things happening here. You can see plus it tells me now that I have something going on. I can sign into GitHub from here as well if I want to, just to make sure that my actual Visual Studio is connected to Git. You can see right there the Git stuff is there. It's not a private repo, not yet. I'm not pushing this yet. I'm just going to go to the changes here. So what we want to do is we just want to like on stage this. We don't want to add that. So all this metadata has to be excluded, ignored. We don't want to push that, all of this noise, into our actual repository. Okay, just bear that in mind. Just push only the things that you really need. Okay, so that is fine. Okay, all of that is fine. Same story with this one, just on stage. And then anything object, anything bean, those things are actually things that are actually metadata. They can be reproduced again, so you don't have to like push them into your actual code repository. Okay, stage that as well. As you can see here, this is gonna be very light. Okay, just want to make sure that your stuff is light. So this is what we need to push in, just basic stuff. Okay, and also you can just make sure that you check everything that you've excluded, just to be sure that it's just the the bin folders and the the actual things that are not really needed. Okay, and then what you want to do is you can actually just like ignore them. You can add them to ignore. You see right there, I've ignored that. Ignore these local items, ignore these local items, ignore these local items. So that will add it to your git ignore file. Ignore. I don't want to see all of this in my it's all like metadata that I really don't need. Ignore. just say ignore local items. Same story with the API ignore. As you can see right there, I'm ignoring everything. Ignore that. And if you check your git ignore file, you see that it actually added it. So you can do this manually too if you want to. So let's go back there. You can see there's only 17 changes that I've added. Let's stage that. Let's give it a friendly name and say API implementation. Okay, so we have API implementation, and then we can actually just push it up to master. We can actually push it up. This is not a private repository, it's a public one. Let's see if that works for us. It's saying we need to configure username and password. It's there. I'm just gonna say at gmail.com. Okay, then let's just say commit, stage, and push. So that will push up everything to the master branch. Okay, it's pushing it up. It will create a master branch, but that is not the main branch actually. So what we can do is I think it's fine actually, we don't really need to stress. But what we can now do is, since I won't be surprised if he created a new repo for us. Yeah, he did. So I don't even think we need to do anything. It's already there. This is what I was looking for. So the other repo can be deleted. This is actually a public repository. So what we have here is actually cool. We've got the actual code here. So what we can now do is we can actually just grab the actual, we can grab that, or I think right from here as well, it would help you to just make sure that things are configured correctly to link to your actual GitHub repository. You can see the code analysis, because that's where the code is. Code analysis up there, and then we have master. That is the actual branch we pushed it up to. Okay, then what we can actually do is we can preview the actual, because this thing generates the actual YAML file for you to do the deployments. As you can see there, you've got the actual thing that you need. You don't need to really stress on anything, dude. Like, this is amazing. You can see right there, everything is right there for you. This thing is just gonna do the needful for you. You don't have to stress. You just have to say next. So it would do the deployment for you, and I'll show you as well. So we're not going to add application insight. Application insight is just a place where you can store your logs in terms of your actual application. We can touch on that maybe later. Let's review the actual app, and then what we want to do is we want to just create this. Okay, so we create it. You can see it's a Linux operating system. It's actually doing it now. It's underway. So whilst this is going on, go back, same story, go back, rinse and repeat, go back to your demo group, and then from there you can actually just check your SQL server. There's a DB already. Just go into SQL server, and then you can actually just say show. You have to set up the firewall, right? So this is where you actually just want to make sure that you can connect from your local machine, from your actual local machine. But what I do is actually I just put something like home or whatever it is I want to put there, and actually just create a range, okay, of that API, because it's picking up my my client IP address already. So I have to set that up. I'm just going to say from 0 to 255. Okay, that's the actual range I want you to oh sorry, there's white spaces. That was what I was wondering. So 105, that's my IP. But that will change very soon. But now you can see I've added my IP there. Another thing that you might want to do is to just make sure that so let's save this first, then we'll go to some other thing that you might need to do here, which is ensuring that your actual application can connect to this actual DB. Just want to see, is it here or there? Can't really remember. Okay, the proxy, yeah. So this is what I was looking for. You can see right there, allow Azure services and resources to access this server. So you have to say yes, because without that, then your API will not be able to connect to the DB. Just bear that in mind. So once we have that, the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that this actually can connect. I can connect to this DB locally, right? So okay, let's go back to the actual DB. What I want to do is I just want to grab the connection string from the actual DB, go back to my resource group, and from my resource group I can actually go back to COVID DB. I can actually just say copy the connections. I'm not going to show you guys that as well. to be safe, but it's actually just a connection string I have to put into the actual. Just put that here. Oh no, it's not showing it actually. I think I'll have to show it though, which is fine. There's no password or anything, but it actually looks like this, right? Where you have to replace your password and then the username stays the same. But right there, I'm just going to construct it right here and make sure everything is fine. Okay, I'm going to set up the actual password because that has to go into the necessary place. Okay, that looks right. I copy that guy, and then the next thing I want to do is I want to go to my actual app, because I'm just waiting for my app. I think that is still creating. Or let's just refresh this. I want to believe that I should have an app. Okay, there's an app there. Click on the app, and then in configuration. Okay, let's just close that. In configuration, just click on configuration right there. And then that should open up like a place where we can put in the actual configuration. Okay, this is going on well. So you can see there I have a connection string. I can add a new connection string. I'm going to say SQL Server or SQL Server Azure, and then right there, that name that I have to put there is the name that I actually used in the actual connection. I'm just going to do that right there. I'm going to blur that out. You won't be seeing that. And then inside of the actual code, remember we had this name that we put for connection string. Let's just use that. That's the same name you have to just make sure you put right there. Hopefully that should be fine. Then we can actually say, okay, we have a connection string, and we can save that, and then we can say continue. So this will restart the actual application. If I go to my analysis repository, I want to believe that this is already deployed. As you can see right there, like immediately you set it up, your actual web app, it will just automatically deploy for you. You don't really need to stress. But let's see what we have, if this thing is actually working as expected. Like just to be sure that the course is working, everything is happening like we expecting it to work. Like the DB might not be there because we don't have any data in the DB. So whilst that is loading, what I just want to do is I want to connect to the DB locally. Okay, the actual Azure DB, because I have to connect to it locally. Okay, I'm gonna grab the server name. Let's grab the server name, which is actually the full stuff, I believe. Copy that, and then let's actually go to okay, there's another thing that we might just have to do, but we don't necessarily have to do it. We can actually just create a backup. So let's do a backup instead. So what I would do now is I'm just going to ensure that we can connect to our actual server, which is that server right there. The actual username is that name code analysis server, and then the next thing is just put in the password. Put in the password, which I will just remember for now, so that at least next time I need to do this, I don't have to do this every time. As you can see there, I can connect to the Azure DB, which is right here. COVID DB, you can see right there, there's a COVID DB right here, although there is no information, there's nothing in there. So what I can do is I can import my my database, my table from here, because we already have a table. So we can actually just say create a backup of this and restore the backup. This is where you can actually learn how to create a backup and restore a backup. Okay, so it'll actually generate a script, because with the script as well, you can run the script against the DB if you don't have a lot of data. So what you can do is you can click on generate script, and then you can just say next, and from there you can actually select the entire table and all of that, or you can actually say the entire DB and all of that. Next, and then you can say advanced, and on there you just want to make sure that you setting it to both schema and data. Just make sure that that is what you're setting it to, schema and data. Press OK, and you can actually say that just open a new query window so that you can see what is going on here. Let's see if it's going to generate that for us. So we should have like a code, like a script that is going to run for us with all of the data and all of the goodies that we need. But actually we don't really need all of this noise, right? what we really need is actually what creates the table and also the data in the table. So what I can do is I can actually just do same story. I can actually just go to the very end and press shift. Okay, so I'll cut that out. I don't really need all of the settings for the DB, so we can go to this actual DB and actually just put the actual information there that we want to do inserts on. And also we can actually just make sure that we not make sure everything is fine, and then we can actually just create a table and execute this. Let's see if this is just gonna work from the I want to believe this should actually just work out of the box. Hopefully there wouldn't be any errors. Okay, seems like it's actually doing the needful. Okay, it seems like everything is there now. Let's refresh. So let's scroll up. Let's just refresh this actual DB. Okay, you can see right there that we have some tables. We have a table there called COVID statistic. So we have our data there on Azure now. Can you see that? So there are other ways you can actually restore this, but I'm just using this as an example, just quick just to be able to see what is going on there. So what we can now do is we can actually just go back to our web API. I'm not sure why we're seeing this. I want to believe something is yet to be done, but okay, saying your is running and waiting for content. Okay, maybe there is already. Let's just say Swagger. See if we can pick up Swagger. It can pick up Swagger, so that means this is not we might need to just redeploy this. I want to believe. So what we can do is we can actually just okay, just want to be sure everything is locked down. So I think we have everything actually. The connection string is there now. We've got we've got our code in repository. We can actually just ensure that we can let's see if we can. Okay, this is a new workflow. We don't want to set up a new workflow. We just want to rerun this one. Let's just run this again. Let's run this workflow again and see what happens. Click on that. You can see that it's building our actual .NET Core API, and I want to believe that that should send it to let's look at what is even going on so you can see what's going on. So basically it's gonna set up the .NET Core. You can see installing some of the tools and things that you need. So ideally this is just going to compile your code and all of that, and then once it's done with building it up and making sure it's ready, the next thing is going to deploy it to that actual place, that actual web app we've actually configured right there on Azure. I just want to see if this is actually doing what is expected of it. So it's there, it's saying deployment using, okay, see, the package is actually like going up now. We're trying to push up the package now to the actual Azure platform. So this is actually okay. So we've got it completed now. Let's actually just run this. Let's see if this would do anything different. Okay, still not happy. Also, what we can also do is we can actually just go check inside of our app. There's a log stream you can check to just see what is going on, because there you can actually also see if something is wrong, and just see what the actual app is actually doing on Azure. So I'm just connecting to it. I just want to see why it's not like serving our, okay, so it's showing us some information. Warning, found files, okay, API. I can see some files here. Okay, so it's saying that to fix the issue, set the command to start a file. So that means we might need to like set up some sort of like a startup command to fix this. Okay, so what we can do is we can actually just go back to let's go back to the actual configuration, but let's copy .NET because we need .NET, and then we can actually just go back to, so we have COVID analysis.api.dll. I think that is the one we need to initiate. So let's go to, is it configuration? Yeah, it should be configuration, and then inside configuration there should be an app settings that you can actually just set up. So app settings would would be where you can actually just make sure that things are actually working as expected. Let's see what's going on. Come on. Seems like the network is a little bit slow. I'm just trying to see if I can get this thing to load up so we can actually just ensure that, because the actual code is there, but it seems like it doesn't know how to start it up. Let's say general settings. Okay, right there you can see there's actually something we can do right there. So .net, and then we can now say COVID. So that should match whatever our actual, what name we've set up here. I'm just gonna like let's stop this, and then let's actually just go there. Say covid.dll, I want to believe so, and then let's save this. Hopefully this should actually trigger that actual that file and make sure that things are actually working as expected. So let's go back to the overview, and then we'll just try to run this. There's some spikes here. I can see some spikes here, so I'm not entirely sure why. I can see some traffic already coming in, so I want to believe that there's just something you might just have to do. Okay, maybe just refresh this. Let's see if this does anything. Oh, beautiful. So you can see right there we've got something happening, right? This is beautiful. Now you can see the middleware is kicking in, telling us you don't have access, so that means that we're actually good to go. And let me see if this actual Swagger is okay. It's not exposed for production. I think that is how they've can configure the .NET 6, which is really amazing. So but you can see right there that this is our middleware, remember. So now what we can now do is we can actually now say configure, put in the base URL, and then I think we need that, and say save. So finally we've got a base URL. You can see that is actually done, and then the next thing you want to do is make it rain. But before you actually do that, you want to like just set up some basic basic stuff. But for this actual demo, I don't really need to do any of that, but you can actually set up your basic and all of that. So, and I'm gonna just show you how you can do that. You can set up your pricing for different usage. So for instance, let's just go back to pricing. I think yeah, so you can actually add a plan to actually say that let's add an object and actually say that what do we want to call this. We can actually say all endpoint and actually say that pro. I'm just gonna call this pro. Okay, pro. So we have a pro, the pro stuff, and then we can actually just say monthly. On a monthly, you want to make sure that the quota is like 1000 soft or add limit, and then that would limit them to only just that quota. Okay, you can save that, and if you go back to your pro, you can actually see there for pro. Actually I can rename that. I think it should be request not pro. Let me see if I can yeah, I can say that. Let's just see what it looks like. Yeah, and then we can actually just see what it's saying. Okay, so you can see right there we've got a request which is unlimited for basic, but obviously you won't have unlimited for basic. You can have one or all of that, but I just want to let you see how this is gonna work out. Okay, and then you can see that you have a add limit, and the next thing you want to do is make sure you set up all these global settings. You can whitelist if you want to. You can do all of that if you want to make sure that everything is working as you expected. And also you can even allow developers to collaborate with you on this. You can actually set up documentation. So documentation is where you can actually say this is how they can use the app, this is how they can this is what they need and all of that. And then once you're actually done, you can actually send new announcements to the users that have subscribed and all of that. And then the thing you want to do is you can actually just switch it there to say make public, and you're in business. So if you actually now go to let's see, I've got my API. Another thing I want to mention is that in terms of your payment, you just have to make sure that you set up your payment. Like they actually only just allow PayPal currently. Only PayPal, that's what they allow currently. So you need to set up a PayPal account and link it to your account, and then you can easily just get your money through that, which is like easy peasy, man. But we have our API, we've got you have got a COVID statistics, and what I can also do is I can actually also test it out myself. You can easily test it out. So let's go to the testing dashboard so you can see what I mean. And I can create a test to just say demo test. Okay, create the test, and then right from there I can actually just start playing around with the endpoint. You can see right there the endpoint is right there. Okay, see the actual rapid key and all of that. But let's see, let's just say one. I'm just gonna run this. Let's send this. So this should actually give me some. Yes, actually, so you can see bad request. So that means that some things are not really, I've not set up this thing correctly to do that. So as part of what I need to do is I just have to make sure that things are set up correctly. There's actually validation, which is actually preventing me from doing this, which means that this is undefined. You can see right there. So I can actually say 10. Let's try 10. Let's see if this actually works. Okay. And also, like, in terms of the actual, you can see there. Okay, so if I check, this is actually I don't know why it's like very but just copy that out, and then I'm just gonna say JSON lint. So let's go to JSON lint so you can see what I mean. You can see right there, actually bringing back 10. Can you see? So that's actually you testing. You can test yourself, make sure everything is working as you're expecting before you even make it public, because mine is public now. I'm sure some people will be there now to actually see what this API is all about, but I'm gonna shut it down now. But it's just to actually let you guys see, like what you can do. So public APIs, I can actually now search for let's see if I can search for an API. See, search for APIs. Let's search for COVID. The COVID, what did we call our API again? Let's go to my API. Just want to use the same name I used for my API so you guys can see what I mean. Okay, it's called COVID statistic. Okay, COVID statistic. Okay, COVID statistic. Let's see if my actual stuff will come out. Yeah, there you can see my API. My API is right here. You can see this is an API that provides static, so someone can come on there and actually just try to use the actual API and see and you can actually use this for anything you want to use it for. You can see you can test the endpoint. You have to provide a take. I want to take, let's say, take 20. Let's take 20 this time and actually just test it. So right there, you should see, you can see right there, stuff is beautiful. Like, and this is it, man. You guys can make, ladies and gents, you can make money from your API. And I hope you guys enjoyed this actual section. My back aches. Please don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, share with families and friends, and let this channel grow. And yeah, I will see you in my next video. Keep well.